Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand. Today, we're talking with someone who specializes in audio branding. We'll talk about how powerful sound really is and how using it correctly and consistently can help you become a more recognizable brand. I'm Tanya Eberhardt, founder of BrandFace, where we help business stars differentiate themselves, and we do that through personal branding.
I'm Michael Carr. I'm the COO of BrandFace. I was actually a client before I became a partner, and we're the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe. And we do Be Bold podcast to help people get over the fear of putting themselves out there, just like the guest we're going to have on here today.
And her name is Jodi Krangle. She's been a voice actor since 2007 and has worked with clients from major brands all over the world, including Dell, BBVA, and Kraft. She's also a singer, gorgeous voice, guys. And in 2015, put out her own album of jazz, blues, and traditional tunes. Over the years, Jodi's learned a lot about sound and how it influences people. Her own podcast on this subject is called Audio Branding, the hidden gem of marketing. Welcome, Jodi, to Be Bold Branding.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. You bet. It's so nice to have you. And instantly, your voice is so melodic. It's so beautiful. And so, we hope everybody just pays attention and doesn't just get entranced here in this podcast.
I'm not doing ASMR on purpose.
Well, you'll have to explain what that is next.
Autonomous sensory meridian response. If you look up ASMR on YouTube or whatever, you'll know exactly what I mean.
Is it kind of like in Jungle Book when the snake Kaa uses those Google eyes at people and draws them in?
It is kind of putting you into a meditative state.
There you go.
It's the combination of sound and visuals that will kind of put you into a meditative state. You know when they say you get brain tingles? That's kind of what that means. ASMR it gives you those brain tingles.
Oh, sweet. I'm definitely looking into that for sure.
I did a deep dive for my podcast. That's how I know.
I love it. Well, hey, Jodi, we're so excited about you being on. Let's jump right into it. You want to tell everybody how you got started in this profession and what was your inspiration for that?
Oh, I've been really thinking about sound since a very early age. My parents were not giving us storytelling time. We had sing-along time when I was a kid. So yeah, my mom's a singer and my dad plays guitar, and they would just sit on the edge of our bed, myself and my sister, and we'd all sing together. That was our nightly ritual. So that kind of gave me a really deep impression of sound right from an early age. And back in 95, 96, I volunteered my time at the CNIB, which is the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. And I was reading articles onto tape. And at the time, it actually was reel-to-reel tape.
I remember that.
Yeah. So I actually really enjoyed the tech part as much as I enjoyed the voicing, which I think gave me an idea that maybe the profession itself wouldn't be as intimidating as I thought. But I actually didn't do anything for it for many, many years. It percolated in the back of my head for a long time. And in 2007, I was bored. A lot of things happen for me when I get bored. So yeah, I got bored. I was doing internet marketing and SEO, and I had a website for a long time. Yeah, I had started. Yeah, I started really early. So my website started in 95 and I was promoting it on a dime. So I figured out how to do that. And then I decided I was going to help other people do that. So that was what I was doing up until 2007. And by that time, Google kind of became the only game in town and I got bored. We were saying before, lots of things happen when I get bored. So I decided that was the moment. Switch focus. I'm already self-employed. And I decided I was going to learn everything I could and get into voiceovers. And that's what I did.
Now,
cool.
Did I read correctly that you're actually an introvert?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Very much so.
So how did that lead you into this career of voiceovers and vocals?
Well, voiceovers is one of those professions where you can be behind the scenes as opposed to in front of the camera. You know, today being an exception.
Right.
I do podcast interviews, but I do them in bits and pieces, let's just say. I will do one interview and then that's the only one I'll do in the day. I'll need time to refresh and regather my energies. So really what being an introvert for me with a very forward-facing business is making sure that I have time to recharge. So I have a certain amount of energy in a day and I expend it when I spend time with people doing interviews, doing other forward-facing things. And I have to back away and be in silence or just, watch a movie or do a run or do something else that just takes me away from people for a little bit. And once I do that and I've recharged, I can do it all over again. And there are people who are extroverts who gain their energy by being with people and being forward facing and all of that. So really, it's just about how you regain your energy.
Yeah, that's takeaway number one, guys.
It is. And I've never heard it put that way. Because to me, like I feel that way sometimes, and this is, and I love meeting people, love doing interviews, but you find yourself spent at the end of the day.
Oh yeah,
it's like you need to just go out in nature for a minute and recharge.
Yeah,
so I feel exactly what you're saying. I do understand that, and that I come from from the radio world, and not the on-air side, but the sales side, the back side of it. And I can remember people just laughing and say, "Oh, so and so has a face for radio, right?"
Oh yeah, okay.
And of course, a
lot of my colleagues say that about themselves.
Exactly, they do. Yeah. They said that about themselves, and I thought, well, oh no, but it's funny because what they're really saying is they don't want their face out there. They want to communicate. They have something to offer, something to say, but they feel so much more secure when it is behind a veil.
Yeah, there is a lot of that to it. Being an introvert does not necessarily mean that you're shy.
Right.
I certainly started that way. I had to get past that when I was a young adult and into my adult years. So yeah, I mean, it does take some getting over, but that's not necessarily what introversion is about. It's just how you regain your energy, really.
I agree with that.
I love that.
I would be an introvert, like long before I would be an extrovert, because of that. And the larger the crowds, like, then the more I need to recharge just by myself somewhere.
Yeah.
Good safe space or whatnot. And it doesn't mean that I don't enjoy being in that crowd. I do. I'm actually an auctioneer for a living before.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
But what's interesting about that is I always, even when the headsets came out, some of my counterparts used headsets at the auctions. I always held a microphone. And the reason why is because I felt like I could hide behind it. I know that sounds goofy, but you might understand.
Hands to do. Yeah.
It's something for your hands to do. It's something behind. It's something that is really more forward facing than you. And I know this might sound really strange to those of you who are listening to Be Bold Branding, that, one of the founders of that would be that way, but I am. And I don't mind putting my face out there, and it doesn't matter how big the crowd is. I'll speak in front of them. I'm not intimidated by any size crowd, but when it's over, I got to go relax somewhere by myself.
Yeah. And I find that I need peace. I need quiet. I need actual silence. Like, and you'd think that would be weird for someone who deals in sound all day long, right? Like,
right.
But I analyze songs too much because I sing as well. I think about the lyrics. I listen to the lyrics. I want to know what instrument is what. I want to know why they did that turn there. I want to know all of this stuff. So it makes my mind race. I can't listen to music and just chill. It isn't possible for me.
We know what you're talking about. Yeah. I can't watch television. I can't watch any commercials because it drives me crazy. I look at it and say, what was that? What was that? Like, who is that company and why? What were they trying to get across?
Who are they targeting?
What
was the message?
Yeah.
See, I'm getting all heated up right now.
Well, there you go. Yeah. But if you're not paying attention to the sound, which is the emotional context of that commercial, it's not going to be as memorable. And really, commercials are all about being memorable, right? You want to remember who the person putting it out there is so that people can buy their stuff.
Yep.
So, Jodi, when was the first time you realized that you had a special talent for this? Was there a certain point that you realized, oh gosh, this is going to be my destiny?
You mean like voiceovers or?
Voiceovers.
Oh, okay.
Voiceovers and vocals, because that's, for those of you listening, that's what Jodi does.
It's more voiceovers these days than the singing. The singing is mostly for my own enjoyment at this point, but I still enjoy it. But yeah, I think that voice had always been a part of my life, really from a very early age. My grandfather had a really deep, chocolatey, lovely voice on my mom's side. My mom is the singer, so that side of the family kind of, I was lucky enough to inherit some of that. And it felt like I had to do something with it. And what was always the question, right? I started singing, but I didn't really understand what voiceover was until way later. And I find the voiceover to be very, very rewarding for me. And I don't do any of the more glamorous stuff. Like, I don't do video games or animation or audiobooks or all these things that are very, they're things people recognize. Mm-hmm. So they're not things that I would be recognized for. But I find that the advertising end of this is almost like a personal pride, I like helping other people make money. That's pretty much what I do.
That's
and
true.
Using sound to do that.
And using sound to do it. Exactly. Yeah. It's nice to do that with something that is very inherently yours,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, what people might not know is there are some strange facts about sound that you probably could enlighten everybody about, like the fact that you can taste by what you influence, taste by what you hear, right?
Yeah. Have learned a ton about sound. Just by doing the podcast, I've had some really interesting interviews, and one of them was a fellow named Steve Keller, who is the Sonic Strategy Director over at SiriusXM. So he is the person in charge of Studio Resonate, which is their advertising agency in there, and for all of the properties that they administer, which is a lot right now. And they do a lot with really interesting experiments in sound. And one of the things that they did was a DJ station for a promotion for Propel, which is a sort of Gatorade type drink. Mm-hmm. And they had people listening in their headphones, tasting the drink, and then dialing from an iPad whether they wanted it to be salty or sweet. And because it's Gatorade, it's like it is usually like an electrolyte drink. Right. So it has that saltiness if you want it, and it has sweet if you want it. So they were letting people do this at a DJ station and watching their faces as they were like, whoa, because all they were doing was hearing something different. And it was changing the way that they were actually experiencing what they were tasting. So psychologically, our brains are wired very strangely, but all of our senses work together.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That if they do blind taste tests and they tell you, I want you to taste this strawberry and vanilla yogurt and tell me which flavor you like best. Well, they might give them lemon and lime yogurt, and they'll still think that it's strawberry and vanilla yogurt because the mind is so suggestive like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that really strange.
It's very fascinating.
It really is.
There is a lot about sound, and we have to be careful with how we allow it to affect us as well, because, and I've said this before, but you can close your eyes, you can't close your ears. Mm-hmm. Not on a regular basis. Having earplugs in all the time is not a good idea. But you can really damage yourself with sound, not just loud sound, but bad sound, like traffic sound, like loud noises in your environment on a constant basis. You have to be careful about these things. Noise pollution is a thing, and it's something that we need to be careful of.
Oh boy, is it.
Makes total sense.
I will testify to that. I'm very sensitive to sounds. Mm-hmm. And if there's a sound that is like a clicking somewhere, or a clock, like a grandfather clock, it will drive me insane. Mm-hmm. I can't listen to a repetitive noise like that. There's only certain patterns that I can listen to before it drives me crazy. Sure. Now, I may be committed after this episode. That's okay. It won't be the first time somebody has wanted to do that. but, but yeah, that there are such things as damaging sounds. They're very irritating. And like you're driving along sometimes in the car and you're listening to music and it's like, why am I so irritable right now? And you realize it's because you have the radio up probably 4 decibels higher than you normally leave it. And that really irritates people. So I can totally see that. And now we love the sonic branding, audio branding. Of course, we feel like it's a big piece of the overall branding puzzle, a really big piece. It's like leaving the house without your 5 senses, right? You can't do that. So it is part of that ecosystem of a brand.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of years ago, a good friend of ours do a soundtrack for us. It's a specific soundtrack designed just for us out of sounds that we told him we really liked. And we use that for our bumper music for this podcast. So if you guys heard that coming in and going out, you'll hear that soundtrack again. So we feel like that's really, really important. So which leads me to the next question. We talk a lot about the point of differentiation. You know, what makes you different from everybody else in your industry? What would you say you're known for in the voiceover space? And how has your own personal brand kind of helped you build your business?
Well, my own personal brand has to do with the DNA of my own voice. So really, that's how a voice talent is going to brand themselves, because that's what you're going to get hired for, whether you like it or not.
Right.
So yeah, so you got to go with your gut, go with what you get hired for, and understand what that is. What I usually get hired for is a lot of like warmth, friendliness, and a little bit of authority, and perhaps a little bit of luxury. So all of those things combined, I do a lot of healthcare, I do a lot of finance. I have done casino work, believe it or not. And, you know, it just depends on how high you dial up the friendliness. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting in-betweens in there too. I do a lot of commercials for retail, so that comes in handy. I end up playing the mom a lot, the mom character, or you know, that kind of feel.
There's a maturity to your voice, depth and maturity. But I can see all of those adjectives you just used describe you so well, every one of them.
Well, I like to think I'm leaning into who I am.
Absolutely. Like you said, you know, they're going to like recognize you for what you deliver, what you represent to them.
Exactly.
And that's a natural, very authentic thing, which is what branding's all about too, the authenticity.
Yeah, being yourself. And one of the things about being a voice actor is really you are yourself when you're speaking. So people are going to hire me if they think that my brand, my voice would fit their brand, depending on what they think it makes them feel. So, and each person is different. So each person's voice is going to evoke a different emotion, different feel, a different brand. So that's why one voice actor might be chosen over another. And it has nothing to do with them being bad at what they do, just that they don't fit that brand.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, it's very interesting because especially you have to be in tune with the very things you're talking about, like who you really are, like who you were made to be, and then go after those roles that fit you so perfectly. I'm trying to find another employee, and I was talking to my staff about hiring this person, and I'm like, how many of y'all think that I yell at you all the time? And like all of them, like, you don't yell, like, you know, I'm like, you know, but it's interesting at the times that people have worked for me that they're like, why are you yelling at me? And I'm like, I'm not, you know what I mean? And so, you know, just the difference in how you perceive yourself and then how you're perceived by other people can always be so different, you know? And I've always been fascinated by that, especially like being an auctioneer too, knowing that I needed to mold crowds for what I was selling, and I needed to capture attention, right, to whatever it was that I was selling. And you lose people, you lose crowds, you lose, things distract the whole crowd, and now nobody's listening to you, or everybody's focused on you, and you don't want them to be, or it's always something like that. But it's really interesting in your space. How that affects, each person, like you said, everybody has a different approach, and you still have
there's range in there.
The range. What I was looking for. There's still a great range, no doubt, all the different areas that you can do for that. But that's really interesting. Love the thought process behind that.
It is a lot about the branding. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I have one more question for you before we go into the 5 questions that every great brand must answer. Sure. What is your dream project as far as voiceover work, or have you already achieved it?
People always ask me that, and I really don't know how to answer them because I love every project that I do. I really do. It's a matter of being able to find the uniqueness in each of the things that you do. And I find that challenge really, it makes me elevate as much as I can, It brings a joy to me to do that keeps me doing this day in and day out. And I really don't have any particular product or service that I have as a dream client, other than the fact that if someone was to trust me with their brand as being their brand voice, that is always appreciated, and it blows my mind when it happens. Like, it's just, oh, wow.
It's a great compliment.
It is. And that's, to me, that's what I'm trying to attain. I'm trying to give people the sound that they want and just consistently deliver that sound on a regular basis. And just doing that is, I love it.
It's very fulfilling when you can do that, and you have that range that, so many people are, and it's just such a beautiful part. I mean, when you say your voice is known for luxury, which I can totally see, it's known for that depth. It's known, like, who wouldn't want to be known for that?
Yeah, right. For sure.
you hit the jackpot.
I do a lot of anthem videos, actually, and they're kind of my favorite thing to do, really. They're the corporate narration videos that you see on the big company websites that are like, this is who we are and we're proud. And they want a little bit of gravitas in there, just a little bit, and pride, but not too much, you just, it's a delicate balance. And I really, really love getting that for them.
Yeah.
It is a delicate balance.
I can see you having that too. You're sort of, I'll say about you on voiceover, like Jeff Foxworthy said about Ron White. He said he could read the yellow pages and be funny. I think that about you, like with that voice, like you could read a phone book and still come across that way. That's awesome. That's really
thanks. It can be a detriment. I mean, there are some projects that no one would ever hire me for, and I get that. I understand that.
But yes, but that's okay, because every great brand should be polarizing.
Yeah.
Somebody that wants a little kid's voice is not going to hire you, unless, I'm sure you could do that. And, and maybe you have done that, but at first glance, your brand does not stand for that. Right. Yeah. So that's not something that somebody would naturally think of first.
No, and someone who naturally does do that on a regular basis would be the better choice, because that's their wheelhouse. That's what they do, But there are certain, like, I have never thought of myself as cool, like, or hip. Like, I never, ever in a million years. So if you have a cool hip brand, I don't think I'm your voice talent.
I love that.
And I get it. I understand that. That is, like, not to say that you can't be that and other things, but that's just, you're not going to hire me for that.
Sure. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys.
No.
Who think you have to please everyone, let go of it. You do not, you're never going to.
No, you're not. If we keep that in branding, period. Like we just, if you go after everybody, every job, every reason, because we work with all kinds of entrepreneurs, you're going to work yourself out of business. So you can't do that. The more focused and specialized you can be, then the better you are at those specializations. And we teach that. And then you're a really sought after person in that space. And not that you can't add other space at some point, but if you're trying to add all that space up front, you're just going to spin wheels at best, and you're going to go out of business at worst. It's
as much about repelling people as it is attracting them.
Absolutely.
You have to know who you are, and then you can understand who would be attracted, and so you know what your tribe is. I love
that.
Yeah.
Really do. So we'll segue straight into the questions with that, because that's actually really, really good time to do that. We're going to ask you 5 very important questions about your personal brand, right? And these are the 5 questions that we know all great brands need to answer to their crowd, their tribe that you're trying to attract. Okay, so number 1 is, what sets you, Jodi, apart from others in your industry?
I sound different. I mean, that really is. It's the sound that I have that isn't someone else's sound. You're going to hire me for the sound of my voice. That's what I do. So that would be the thing that sets me apart. But I think also that voiceovers is a service industry in a way, in a pretty big way. And if you can get your audio to your clients quickly and with a minimum of fuss, because they have a lot of other things that they're dealing with, then I think that will set you apart. So I have a professional services guarantee. I have a revisions policy that I give people up front. I respond to my email probably within 2 minutes of receiving it. And I can sometimes have a job ready and the audio back to my clients within a half an hour. So it depends. But that is definitely...
That's huge.
Yeah. It definitely helps, because a lot of these productions are done on a dime, and they're done like really quickly. So, yeah.
That's a big point of differentiation. Okay, number 2 question is, who do you serve? Specifically, who are your ideal customers?
Usually ad agency creatives, so the creative director at an ad agency, or people who are doing filmmaking or content creation, people who are concerned with the sound of what they're putting out there. And these are a lot of the people that I interview on my podcast. So I'm getting the inside track on that, which I really like. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. I also love the power of the podcast these days. It's just fantastic.
Totally. Yeah.
Finally, right?
Yes. Okay. On the heels of who do you serve, how do you serve them?
The voiceovers and getting the stuff to them quickly and making sure that they feel confident in what they're getting. So the tagline on my website is world-class sound, gold standard service. And the reason that I put that as my tagline instead of talking about my voice itself is because I am giving people the relief that they need to get what they need before they worry about the voice, because they are listening to my demos. They're all there. It's upfront. If they want to hire me, they're going to do it from listening to those demos and deciding they like the voice. But the reason they're going to hire me, the reason that I would be different from someone else, is because I put their mind at ease. And so that's really the selling point for me, is to make sure that they have put their minds at ease, that they're going to be taken care of.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so number 4 is, what qualifies you to serve your ideal customers?
I have been doing this full time since 2007. So not only have I taken a lot of coaching from different well-known coaches who are really good at getting down to the nitty-gritty of what makes you you, but I've gotten comfortable in being me, which takes time. And not to say that someone who's just started can't do a really, really good job. They totally can. But if you want to get down to the essence of who a voice actor is and what their voice can do, having a bit of experience behind them is really going to help. Because that voice actor is going to know who they are and what they're bringing to the performance of what you need. And that's helpful. And it means you're going to get what you need quickly and without fuss, because you don't have to go back and ask them to redo it 15 times because you didn't get exactly what you wanted.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. So knowing what you might want up front, because the script tells them that, or the music that you're going to use tells them that, or all of these things combined, knowing how that can intersect to create the perfect audio for you the first time is really why you would hire a professional and someone who's been doing it a while.
Love it. And the last one, you know, so you have to be creative because you sort of answered it in a lot in the other questions. But
Okay.
How does it make their life better?
You know, I think that people, and you've probably talked about this before on your show, people buy based on emotions. They don't buy based on logic. So I can tell people until I'm blue in the face that they'll be taken care of, but they're not going to believe it until they are. Until they reach out and ask for something and I'm able to give it to them in a half an hour. And, you know, it's all easy and they are communicated with and their questions are answered and all of their potential fears are put to rest. I mean, that's the service part of this industry, and you kind of don't know that until you initiate some kind of connection.
You wade out in those waters.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, okay, fantastic answers, obviously. but now, like in your industry, do you find that is not the norm? Like being in the real estate business, you know, like everybody's like, oh, service, I do service.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
they don't. Like 1% of us do service.
Yeah.
Of them claim they do service. Do you find that to also be the same in your industry? Do you think that at least a big majority of people are going to be overly aggravating to those people hiring those services rather than?
You know, I don't think that anyone does that on purpose. I think that every voice actor out there is going to do as good service as they possibly can, because that's how you get repeat business. I mean, that's how anyone gets repeat business, by making sure that your clients are taken care of. So I don't think that it's necessarily that other people are not going to do service, just that I think the speed that people reply can sometimes be a little off.
Definitely.
Because they're maybe not doing it full time. Maybe they're doing another job and they can't answer from their current job, or they're doing it part time, or, you know, family obligations or whatever. Like, these things can make it so that it's harder for you to respond in a timely manner. And some people are, you know, naturally inclined to let that go a little bit.
Yeah, right.
and that's okay. I mean, you know, everyone's style is
no
different.
judgment, of course.
No,
but,
well, none at all. You know, like I have no kids. I've been married 30 years, but I have no kids and I have no pets. So for me, this is what I do. It's all that I do. You know, it is pretty much my day from beginning to end. And in some cases, that can not be the case for some people who are in voiceover. So, you know, it depends. But I don't think that there's anyone deliberately not giving service out there. I think they're all doing that.
But there's quite a few that suck at it, Jodi. I just have to go there. Listen, I don't say it. I didn't make it up. My clients or my clients and customers over the years, they tell me those things.
Yeah.
And they no doubt tell you, oh my gosh, the last 2 people we hired, I don't know. You know, it happens in every industry.
No, it does.
It does.
Rises to the
Yeah.
top.
And you're being so kind, which is another thing that celebrates the beauty of your approachable brand. So
well, I really do love the voiceover industry, and really the people that I have met in this industry are the sweetest, kindest people ever. Like, I don't think I've met one person that I don't like. So
same here.
Yeah.
We feel the same
told you
way.
off air, you know, that we spoke at a conference and we loved everybody. Like we had a blast the whole weekend with everybody. And so even people just selling stuff, everybody was friendly, so nice. So we're definitely, folks, we're not beating up on the voiceover industry.
No, every industry has those people that do not provide good service, which leaves an opportunity for the rest of us.
It leaves a great opportunity for those people that are serious about that. You know? and serious about building that brand to be known for that, because those professionals, they talk amongst themselves too, right? So those professionals hiring you, they probably know other guys that and the gals that they call on the phone to say, hey, I need this project done. Like, go
being reliable is a big thing.
Reliability is huge, and especially I think in these days and times, it seems like post-COVID, reliability has gone through to the basement. Like,
it's hard.
They had Michael and his assistant Sydney. They had 3 interviews lined up today, trying to hire someone for a great position at this company. 2 of them didn't even show up for the interview.
Yeah.
Really?
So I had the same thing. Perfect candidate, was so excited about meeting with her 2 weeks ago. Didn't even show up. Didn't say she wasn't going to show up. Just did not show up at all.
No reschedule.
Nothing.
No, I changed my mind. No, I got hired from somebody else. And
right.
To us, like, that's how we would respond in the same situation, right? And so that's why we ask these things about, exactly what service really looks like, because some people hopefully from this podcast will learn that service, you may think that you're serving well. We can always learn how can I serve better, right, from people who have experience like what you're saying.
Sure. I have to say also that I've sort of seen it from the other end. I mean, right now there's this need for people to do jobs. And so it's really their market. But before it wasn't. And there were a lot of employers trying to hire people who would not show up, or just hire it to someone else and not tell anyone, or, so
that is true.
It's coming from, So a lot of this is, I'm not saying for you guys specifically, but a lot of this is kind of turnabout is fair play.
I would agree with that 1,000%.
Right.
No, I'll go with you all the way down that road. It's definitely true. I tell my staff when we can't get stuff done, and I'm like, it's not going to be this way forever. Just hold tight, because the tables do turn. That's life. That's supply and demand. That's the way economies work. And so you're right.
That said, it's always nice to be polite, and I would hope from either end that people are polite about it and at least communicate. But unfortunately.
Sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they don't. Exactly. Yeah.
That's okay, though. That's okay. Well, like I said, it just provides more opportunity for the people who really are cognizant of that, and a lot more work. A lot more work. So, Jodi, it has been such a pleasure to have you on, and wish we could continue with the conversation, but we have enjoyed it. You are such a delight, and what a lovely talent you have. We've had such a great time today.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a great show, and I think a lot of people are going to benefit from a lot of the things that you say here. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Now, tell people how they can reach you if they have questions for you, want to hire you for some voiceover work.
Sure. I'm at voiceoversandvocals.com, so you can go there and check it out. The podcast, Audio Branding, is at audiobrandingpodcast.com. And if any of your listeners are on Clubhouse, I actually do have a Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. I have a chat about the power of sound every week at 2 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, and just go through different types of topics. So we talk about music, we talk about the power of voice, we talk about the power of podcasting, and we talk about the power of audio branding. So it just sort of like goes through scrolling through different topics. And I've had the people from they talk about voice AI. So lots of voice AI companies, and the Open Voice Network is participating in those. And they're the ones that sort of give people an ethical idea of how that could work. And it's been an interesting conversation.
I'll say that sounds interesting.
That would be very, very.
Yeah. We'll join you sometime for that.
Yeah.
Please do. Yeah.
You bet.
I'm always looking for panelists too. So if anyone has an expertise in any of those topics I mentioned, by all means, reach out. I'm happy to talk with you about that.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you again. Thank you so much. All right. If you guys have questions about your brand and want to learn more about us, head to discussyourbrand.com and schedule a free session to discuss your brand. Let's see what it's going to take to get you exactly where you deserve to be.
Yep. And folks, we do this for prosperity. When we say prosperity, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about the full 360 of an abundant life that we truly wish for every one of you. We know here at BrandFace that prosperity favors the bold. So we say be bold, especially with your brand. And thank you, Ms. Tanya, and thank you, Ms. Jodi.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, we'll see you next time on Be Bold Branding.
Brought to you by BrandFace, the only comprehensive personal brand building system across the globe.